show, The Volpe Report.
Well, Mr. Leader, welcome to the Volpe Report. I thank you for your time. As I said, it means a lot. You're a national figure, obviously. We know how busy you are in Northeast and Central Pennsylvania, especially at this time with that big, beautiful bill we're about to talk about in the hopper, so to speak, over at the Senate, and what's going on around the country. There could be no better time to talk to you. And obviously, to your left and right, we have two dear friends of mine, especially Dan and I consider one of my closest friends. He's been a great congressman. He was a great Secretary of the Treasury under Governor Tom Corbett. And, of course, the young man to your right, I believe it is, my left, Rob Bresnahan, is a freshman congressman, has done already a wonderful job. He was a great candidate. As you know, he unseated going for a seventh term House Appropriations Chairman, Democrat Matt Cartwright. No small feat. And I will also add, in my media market, which goes as far west as Williamsport, basically it's an more elderly population. We have one of the oldest demographics in Pennsylvania in the nation, which means Social Security, Medicaid, and Medicare is probably, as much as the economy, issue number one in this media market. So thank you. And with that segue, I'd like to ask you, you just passed that big, beautiful bill. And what they're already doing, again, the lies by the congressional Democrats, the distortions are, they're attacking Medicaid, they're attacking Medicare, they're attacking Social Security. Your benefits are going to be cut. But there's no better credibility than to have you answer for the people up here and everywhere else in Pennsylvania. First question, are people going to lose their benefits on Medicaid?
Well, first, thanks for having me, and for the people in Northeast Pennsylvania especially. Thank you all for what you've done to send two great members here. Love working with Bresnahan as this new member. Dan Meuser and I have become great friends over the years, and a great leader who I think has even bigger things ahead for him. But let's talk about the one big beautiful bill. We've got a saying up here: if they're going to keep lying about us, we're going to start telling the truth about them. And let's tell the truth about the great things in this bill and what every Democrat, keep in mind, every Democrat in Washington voted no on. So this bill, if it failed, there would be a $4.5 trillion tax increase. Every family in America, 90% of the families in Northeast Pennsylvania would see a tax increase, and it would mostly hit the lower and middle income people. You hear them lying about millionaires and billionaires. We do no tax on tips. Elon Musk and all the billionaires, they don't get paid in tips. You know who does? The waitress at your local diner who's working 2 shifts. The average pay for somebody who earns tip money is $32,000 a year. They won't have to pay taxes on that money. A factory worker, somebody working in a steel mill, currently has to pay taxes on their overtime. They won't after this bill. And then we also shore up the deficit. We strengthen programs like Medicaid. There was a great article earlier this week in the Wall Street Journal that talks about the realities of what Joe Biden and Democrats did to weaken Medicaid. They put illegals on Medicare and Social Security and Medicaid. Illegals, we remove them. They have people, if you're a 35-year-old able-bodied adult sitting at home in your mom's basement playing video games, first of all, your mom doesn't want you in her basement. She wants you to go get a job. But it is crowding out the disabled people on Medicaid. And so this article was a parent who was talking about how their disabled child can't get Medicaid because able-bodied people are now crowding them out of the program and they're on a waiting list. We fixed that in this bill. So, you want to talk about who we're helping in this bill? It's working people, middle-income people, disabled, seniors. We give a tax break to seniors in this bill. So if this bill fails, massive tax increase on working Americans. We don't want that to happen. We also shore up energy security. Pennsylvania knows how to deliver energy security for America. You got states like New York who won't even let you send your energy around the world. We try to fix some of those problems, but we also strengthen border security. You go look at what's happening in LA, for goodness sake. I mean, you got a major American city where they're waving a foreign flag and burning the city down with illegals, violent criminals that the Democrats have embraced. Seems like their logo now. And so we, working with President Trump, have started to secure the border, but more needs to be done. We want to get rid of the violent criminals. We're trying to deport violent criminals so they're not killing Americans here. The president needs more money for Border Patrol, for ICE agents. for technology for our Border Patrol agents so they can compete with the drug cartels in Mexico, so you don't have all these drugs like fentanyl hitting the streets of Pennsylvania. We fixed that in this big bill, too. That's why it's called One Big Beautiful Bill. It does a lot of really good things to get America back on track, to lower inflation, to lower costs at the grocery store, at the gas pump, to get this country moving again.
Yeah, also, this bill, Chuck, included a $12.5 billion investment into air traffic control modernization. I'm on the Transportation Infrastructure Committee, and I had the privilege of visiting Wilkes-Barre Scranton's International Control Tower just last week and visiting the TRACON. And we need to make these critical infrastructure investments so we can make sure that the 5,000 planes in the sky at any given moment, or the 45,000 flights a day, or the 2.9 million people that we're moving every single day through our air traffic control systems remain safe.
Yeah,
Chuck,
great. And Dan, your comment.
You know, my main point I want to make: Democrats and most of the media, certainly not you and a few others, are fear mongering that this thing is going to take away food out of people's mouths, as our Pennsylvania governor has said, and which is completely false, completely untrue, and he knows it. That it's going to remove Medicaid from those who need it. Look, Bill Clinton is the one who came up with the word workfare. He started camps rather than medical assistance, which had work back in the 90s. We're just bringing back very reasonable work requirements on what the leader said between 18 and 58 years old on those who are extremely able-bodied. And by the way, there's all kinds of waivers, all kinds of doctor's notes that could be getting mental illness, whatever it might be, if you truly can't work. So it's fear-mongering. And by the way, once people really look at what we have on Medicaid with work requirements, it has like 75% approval from the American people.
Yeah.
So they're on the wrong side of every 80-20 issue, Dan, on the wrong side. You know, I'm watching television, as we all are, at this catastrophe happening in California. I can only imagine what your media people are working on in commercials for the midterms. You know, talk about fiddling while Rome burned. You have a governor of a state and a mayor of a city sitting there criticizing the president for intervening and saying the riots are mostly peaceful. And there's video and film and television footage. Buildings are blowing up. Tear gas is being thrown. Officers are being attacked by this mob. We have police cars blowing up and burning and black smoke billowing. All is well, they say. Don't worry about this. And what business does the federal government have intervening in our own personal statehood? It's a travesty. That one picture alone, if it's worth 1,000 words, says all you need to know about the Democratic Party. Although I would say that still only gets a runner-up to Senator Van Hollen, when a woman in his state had her daughter brutally murdered by a G13 gang member, and he's down there sipping margaritas with you can't make this up. Look, if I was a spy and converted to a Democratic consultant, but I was really a Republican operative, I couldn't have done in my wildest dreams a better job of ruining their messaging and destroying their brand than they have done themselves. I had to just get that out. And Mr. Leader, your comment.
Chuck, you're spot on. And look, this is the problem with the Democrat Party in Washington. It's why every Democrat, like puppets, every one of them voted no on this bill. All the great things we talked about, Bresnahan went through, what great things we're doing to reform the air traffic control system, which, by the way, every American wants to see happen. Dan talked about what we're going to do to help small businesses compete with big businesses, the multinational corporations. That's in this bill. Every Democrat voted no. Why? Because they're now the party that's just against Donald Trump. Donald Trump could come out today and say, I want every day to be beautiful, sunny skies and everybody to have, flush cash in their paychecks. And they would be against it just because Donald Trump said it. And so that is not a message. That's not a national party. It's frankly a national disgrace that's what they represent. As you said, Chris Van Hollen drinking margaritas with an MS-13 gang member who was a wife beater. That's their party. I think waving the Mexican flag in L.A. is their new logo for Gavin Newsom. He's one of their candidates, their front runner poster boys to be president of the United States. Do you want lawless America? Do you want L.A. to be every city in America? I don't think Americans do. They sure didn't want that when they went to the polls in November. Donald Trump and Kamala Harris couldn't have been more clear in their differences. Donald Trump said, I don't want anybody to have a tax increase. He's following through. Donald Trump said, I want a secure border. I want energy security. Kamala was against all those things. And the American people said, no, I want Donald Trump and I want him to carry through. And he's now actually following through on the promises he made during the campaign. And we're right there with him delivering on those promises for the hardworking people of America.
No question, Mr. Leader. A couple of other points and comments. You know, something is dreadfully wrong in the country I grew up in. I'm 65 years old now. The American values and what America stood for. And the part I don't get about the Democrats, like, again, if you're trying to lose elections, these would be the things you would do, right? To seal home the message. The folks under 100,000 are the people you help with this big, beautiful bill. And they're the people the Democratic Party have left. They've become woke. They become far left radicals. I hate to say it, but actually Marxist in some of the rhetoric. So I like your comments on there's no leadership, there's no message, there's no vision. When you bring out your beautiful bill and set forth an agenda of make America great again, their response has been to stop it, fight it. Instead of even offering, don't you offer a plan of your own? Crickets. Don't you have a leader that steps forward? Crickets. I can't imagine that we are living in this time that it's one lie after another. And if your eyes are telling your brain the truth and you see what's happening on television, for example, obviously you were all criticized about January 6th. They're openly, the Democratic leaders, Schumer in the Senate and others, are out in the street saying, we have to shut down Washington. But that's okay, according to the legacy media. So your comments on some of that as well.
Yeah, that's a lot, and they have no consistency. They have no message. You know, and if you think about who their leaders are, and frankly, they do have some leaders, it's AOC, it's Bernie Sanders, it's Jasmine Crockett, it's Maxine Waters. Go look at, they call her Mad Max. I mean, she's in LA right now encouraging these lawless people against ICE agents. They hate our Border Patrol agents, hate them. They would defund them today if they could. That's who their leaders are in the Democrat Party. And nobody in their mainstream is standing up against them. It's why, as you said, so many working people, blue-collar workers, have left. People that never voted Democrat or Republican in their life voted for Donald Trump and Bresnahan and Meuser because they said, I don't even know who this party is anymore. It's surely not the JFK party. JFK could not get elected in a primary today in the Democrat Party because they've moved so radical left. It's the radical Marxists, as you mentioned, that have taken over their party. And the regular folks won't stand up. I go across all across America. I come from Louisiana where the Blue Dog name started, South Louisiana. Blue Dog. I still know a lot of Democrats who are pro-life, fiscally conservative. They believe in the traditional values of America. They don't recognize the Democrat Party at all today. And that's the problem they have up here in Washington. They don't know why they lost the election. They want to double down on their crazy Marxist policies. And if they keep doing it, we're going to keep standing up for those working people, fighting and delivering for those working people, and we'll keep winning elections because of it.
Well, you get a feel, and the two congressmen to your left and right know this, that Pennsylvania, outside of some small areas, tends to be more of moderate to even conservative state with dairy farmers and other working people, of manufacturing, other things like that. And one that did actually stand up in the last couple of days, Senator John Fetterman, finally somebody said to them, enough. What are you doing? I mean, some of their, like James Carville and David Axelrod, even they're out there saying, like, what are we doing? They can't believe it themselves. I want to get back real quick, though, because, again, back to this big issue up here of what they're lying about what Medicaid is going to do in the big, beautiful bill. The speaker was on about, maybe 2 weekends ago, but I believe with Margaret Brennan, Face the Nation, and she grilled him pretty hard on, 8 million people are going to lose their benefits under this big, beautiful bill. And he broke the math down pretty nicely. As I recall, he said, first of all, 4.5 million are illegals. They're not citizens. Some of them are criminals. They shouldn't be getting it in the first place, one. Then he said there's close to another 1.7 to 2 million folks that, as you said, are able-bodied and should be, work requirements will put them to the test. And then he said the rest are just fraud. Like, so you got 8 million people that should not be getting Medicaid anyway, but they talk about, so they tell a lie. Is it true 8 million people could lose Medicaid? Yes. Do any of those people deserve it and should be getting it legally? No. And it's the same thing with Social Security. Let's talk about that. According to what Doge found, we have some people that would have to be close to 200 years old, and they're still collecting Social Security checks. So, again, let's go back to that point because it's real big up here. Again, talk about the issues that their benefits, from my understanding of the bill and what I've talked to Dan and Rob about, none of these cuts are happening for people that are American citizens, that love their country, that work hard and believe in the values of why this country was founded, that they have no dangers. Our most vulnerable people that those things were designed to help, they have no issues either. That is a correct statement, is it not?
Absolutely. And look, you talked about Bresnahan's district and the ads that they're running that are just flat false. Start with disabled people. That's who Medicaid was supposed to be helping. It's made it harder for disabled people to get benefits when the Democrats added all of these other people onto the rolls that used to be getting private insurance. You think about it, the able-bodied 35-year-old that we talked about, sitting at home playing video games, turning down work. Just the basic Clinton-era work requirements we put back in place. When he goes out, the Democrats will say, oh, that guy's going to lose his health insurance. He might be off of Medicaid because he got private health insurance with a job. He actually got a job, and now he's paying taxes instead of, the woman at the diner who's working really hard, working 2 shifts, paying for him to sit at home. He's now working, paying taxes so that Social Security can be more solvent, and he's got better health insurance. And the disabled person is not getting crowded out of Medicaid because that guy's now on a better plan. That's what really will happen. Plus, the illegals are no longer on the program. The fraud, they identified over $60 billion in fraud just last year in Medicaid. $60 billion. Why is the Democrat Party defending fraud and wasteful spending? They want that to continue going on. I don't know if their buddies are getting the money. You're not getting the money. The people in Pennsylvania are paying for that $60 billion a year in fraud, and they're not getting the benefits. They're getting programs that aren't working as good as they should. These programs will work better for the people who deserve it, for the disabled, for the seniors, with these reforms.
And may I add this?
Please, Dan.
Medicaid has gone up 40% in the last 4 years. Does anybody think that 40% is a realistic number, that there's not waste abuse? We're trying to bring some accountability to it via an auditing approach. Here, get this. Florida, for instance, has 4 million more people than New York. Yet New York gets $20 billion more in Medicaid funding than Florida gets. One state is run properly with accountability. The other state has a policy, and some will argue Pennsylvania does too, called close your eyes and authorize. Don't worry about the eligibility. Take the applications in and allow these benefits to go out. We can't afford it. Along with Medicaid going up that much, the spending of the United States of America has gone up over 55% in the last 5 years, ladies and gentlemen. We're now paying interest on our debt, almost $1 trillion a year, just the interest on the debt. So if we don't bring a level of accountability and get these folks these Democrats, frankly, who are just think spending is, the so-called modern monetary theory that debts and deficits don't matter. Okay, that's no way to run a railroad. It's certainly no way to run a country or run a state.
Well, I currently can't say anything more eloquently than the speaker had said, but I just want to dispel a few different things. We've seen the Pennsylvania error rate go from 5.5% in 2019 to over 15.5% in 2024. So, there needs to be some financial responsibility, and the federal government just can't be an open checkbook. And then going back to some of the exemptions, if you are incarcerated in a public institution, you are still eligible for Medicaid and SNAP benefit. If you were designed to receive Medicaid benefits, you will continue to receive them. If you are an illegal alien, something that we have been very vocal on, that we are certainly not going to support, you will not be eligible at that point. But the waste, the fraud, the abuse inside of the system, the illegal aliens, no, those are the people that won't be continuing to receive those benefits. But if you are truly deserving to receive those, you will absolutely continue to.
Great answer, Rob. You know, Dan, and back to you. You made a great point about the difference between New York and Florida. Do you know why New York takes a disproportionate chunk out of Medicaid, for example? They put all the illegals on it. I mean,
Exactly.
and then bill the federal government. I'm paying for them in Pennsylvania, and all of you are too in Louisiana and in Pennsylvania as well. You know, I saw they've done covered the hotel bills for New York City alone, $59 million. And we have veterans that come on this show. They're sleeping on grates so they don't freeze to death in this country. You know, again, the message is un-American, anti-American. I can't understand that somebody hasn't said enough in the Democratic Party. I listened just last night. I was flicking through YouTube, a speech by Bill Clinton in a State of the Union message talking about immigration and talking about the necessary need to enforce it. And although we are a great country, I'm paraphrasing him, of course, of immigrants, and we all came from immigrants, it's important, but we are also, he said, here were his exact words, we are also a country of laws. And if you're a country of laws and your citizens to have a right to respect those laws, they're held to that standard. Well, apparently not in the iteration of the Democratic Party. They're giving out driver's licenses. And one more point, real quick. When we had lunch, Dan, with the speaker, and we were talking, I talked to him. I said, Mr. Speaker, why would they be doing this? Explain their end game. He said, Chuck, that's simple. They're going to get into blue states. They're put on welfare. They're getting Medicaid signups. They're issuing them driver's licenses. It's not a big stretch to think if you have a driver's license, you're going to be able to go register to vote with that driver's license. And he said further, some states have an automatic, if you get a driver's license, they automatically register your vote. He said they want to be able to steal elections forever into the future by adding all of these additional voters to the Democratic rolls. It made sense. That could be the only end game there could be, right?
Yeah. That's part of the plan, but also just increasing the population size. This way they can add more into a particular region.
More electoral votes.
So as they pack that area to be assured that they'll have a Democrat member. But look, we've got the ball right now. We've got a great majority leader. We've got an outstanding speaker. We've got a great president. We've got a plan, right? And what matters is the result. People need to anticipate and expect strong results in our economy, our national security, and in our fiscal responsibility, and we're going to deliver. We'll wait for the result. Don't listen to the fear-mongering.
Well, if you had a better reason to go Republican in the midterms coming up and support what's going on in this country, there could not be a clear contrast to me, a black and white contrast. This is what the Democratic Party stands for, and this is what the Republican Party stands for. And, you know, I don't remember which president said it, but he said, I have just tremendous faith in the American people. Richard Nixon referred to them as the silent majority. I think we saw that majority that nobody hears from on November 5th of 2024. And with what the great work you're doing, that would continue into the future. So we're about to sign off. Mr. Leader, any final comment?
Look, I just appreciate what the people of Pennsylvania have done to send up some great members of Congress to go be in the fight to get this country back on track. We're going to turn it around. As Dan said, we're going to get this done because there's too much at stake for those hardworking families who are counting on us. If the Democrats all want to walk away from the American dream, that's their problem, and they're going to be held accountable for it. We are not. We're going to fight and deliver for those families in Pennsylvania and all around the country who need the relief that's coming, and it's going to be here soon.
Well, as my final note, I want to, again, on behalf of the folks from Northeast and Central Pennsylvania, say thank you, Mr. Leader, for your time. It means a lot. Telling people the truth means a lot. They're clearly able now to distinguish what legacy media tells them, which is a lie, and what everybody else is telling them. People like me and others in podcasts are telling them the truth. They're able to hear it. I was an old trial lawyer, Mr. Leader, and the jury always has a tremendous, for all the fancy lawyer tricks, a tremendous capacity to hear the truth. That's what the American people are, the jury, and I think you'll know what their verdict is. Thank you again, Dan and Rob. I see you so much more. Of course, you keep doing the good work you're doing for the people up here, and America is heading in the right direction. But the future of our country is at stake right now in the next several years. And I think the American people will see what that future is. Thank you.
God bless you. Thanks.
God bless.